everyone, to this edition of Just Josh, and the special Sunday edition. I am your host, Joshua Pantellaresco. I write stuff, illustrate, broadcast, that seem to be doing everything these days. And my guest is Jerimiah Stemple. He is, actually, what's your official title? We should actually just start introducing you that way.
My official title is, well, the guys like to say professional beggar, but I do all the financial outreach and things like that.
Financial outreach, and for what company exactly?
Heroes for Causes.
Heroes for Causes, and that seemed like a really cool thing. So why don't you introduce people and tell people about kind of what this is and how you got involved in it?
Basically, what we do is we make original superhero comics with superheroes that have different life-limiting illnesses like brain cancer or cystic fibrosis, things like that, so that the younger patients have heroes they can actually truly identify with on a base level. And we write them as not only educational, but as a fun read and a way of inspiring these kids to follow their dreams, even though they're sick.
Which is an awesome thing.
And we give 100% of all of our proceeds to charity as well. So
yeah, it's just for a good cause. So I'm going to ask this: is this really personal? If it's really personal, you don't want to answer, I understand. But was it a personal stake that brought you into this, or was it just like a love of comics? How did you do it?
I mean, I have always loved comics, but what brought me into it was I actually have cystic fibrosis myself.
Okay.
And it started off as just a cosplay costume I was going to wear to hand out information about CF. And then when I posted that I was looking for someone to do the art for it, Joseph and Donovan, who are also part of the team, decided that it would be better off if we tried to do a whole comic, and it kind of exploded from there.
Nice. So it's based off your design, your character then.
Correct.
All right. So
this is actually him right here.
Take a quick look here. Urine and Terry and Tear Gasp. Okay. So Gasp is, I'm assuming, the villain there?
Yeah, he's the villain in the first issue, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So how many, is this, go forward here. So do you write the book at all? Or is it or have you hired professionals to do it? Or is this a labor of love? What's the goal with this at this point?
I mean, the goal is to just keep trying to cover as many causes as we can. Joseph actually does the writing, and Donovan Peterson does the penciling, and then we have to hire out the colorist and inker.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, comics, well, you guys do get off a little bit because it's a little cheaper than if you had to hire a penciler. I know this from experience. So I mean, you are doing a lot of stuff in house. But so is it surreal for you? The fact that it's something you just imagined one day just as a fun cause is now a book. Is that kind of
Well, it's not only one book, but we're working on 2 and 3 now. We just got our second hero funded as well.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. And it's definitely going way bigger than I ever thought it would. We have readership in 5 countries, which I never thought would happen.
Nice. That's impressive, actually. So, so you've always been in the comics. You always got into comics, and you took this approach based on a personal thing. Mm-hmm. So I guess will you tackle a script yourself at some point, or how much input do you have in the stories at this point?
I helped Joseph with the story. With the first one, we try to have a patient as well as somebody medical on the team to keep everything accurate. And that was what I did for the first one, since I have CF. But I also have input on the storyline, the plot. I help with the costume design, things like that. So I'm just not an active artist myself.
So you're still very.
Oh yeah.
No, that's really, really good. So I was talking about this from a storytelling perspective with other creators, like I did last night. So is there a beginning, middle, and end? Or are you just kind of just seeing how far this can go? Is it kind of one of those wild rides and see it, or is it more okay, I have a plan. This is good. We stumble on something. Let's make this it.
We're trying to do it as each issue has a beginning, middle, and end. Each one is a standalone issue, because we don't want people to feel like if there's a specific one they want to read, they don't have to feel like they are missed something because they didn't see other ones. So each one is a standalone story.
Okay.
But I mean, we haven't decided if there will be an overarching story yet or not.
So this is, you're still taking I'm not gonna say baby steps in a sense, because this is kind of a new medium for you. Okay.
I'm new to making comic books, but the other guys are not. Like Joseph has been published by both Image and Scout Comics.
Yes.
So like he knows what he's doing.
All right.
I'm still fairly new.
Speaking of Joseph. Hey,
Yeah,
man.
guys.
Speaking of the devil, there he is.
I am officially jealous of your T-shirt. I'm just saying that right off the top of my head. I'm jealous, like totally. But welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we introduced Jeremiah very briefly. So introduce yourself, my friend.
Yep.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah. I'm Joseph. I'm part of the core creative team of Heroes for Causes and Pathway, and I also have been writing comics and self-publishing since 2012. So
Okay.
I have some books out. AC Comics. I have a book coming out with Scout, anthology with Image Comics and stuff like that.
Which is awesome.
So
yeah. So how did you? He told me how the idea initially formed. So what made you like decide to like go in on this yourself? Like what was it that drew you into it?
I think my original series was called Only Human, and it was the first comic I ever wrote, first comic I ever published. I actually got an artist for and all that other stuff. And the whole theme of that was, anti-bullying. So it was about a character that, could overcome bullying and be the superhero of the story, essentially. So my heart's always been there. And I think, you keep an eye out for good opportunities to continue that mission. And since my heart was in it, when the opportunity came up, I kind of jumped on board, and it was cool that, it all came about. We had other people like Donovan Peterson jump on board. And then when the team kind of came around, it solidified the idea. And I knew that, we had some wings to kind of move this forward to actually be a thing. A lot of ideas in the comic community are pitched around and nothing really comes of it. But this one seemed to have enough support that I knew that, we could get some traction and really make a difference.
Which is awesome. No, I can hear you on that because I've done my own comic stuff as well. It's not an easy business to break into. All right, it's just not. And there's always a lot of talk, but there's not. Action is rare. So when you find it, you jump on it, right? So how do you two know each other?
Through a comics creator thing on Facebook.
Yeah,
We've only actually met face to face, I think, once.
Okay. So like were you a fan of his work, or were you did you guys just had something in common that you were talking about? Because that's
when I made the post about looking for the artist, that was the first I had ever heard of him. When he, was like, "That's a cool idea."
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremiah had posted in the comic book creator Facebook group, and I think I had posted, and then like a second later, Donovan had posted about willing to be involved with the project, and he happened to be an artist, and I happened to be on the writer publishing side of it, so it kind of like all made sense. The core pieces were there, and then we just formed a Facebook chat group, and then from there, we kind of became good friends, and surrounding cystic fibrosis as the core cause, and realized we all had big hearts and wanted to make a difference for not only the comic book community, but also kids that maybe weren't particularly touched by comics but are still dealing with these issues and these diseases and chronic illnesses and stuff.
Well, I think it's a really cool thing because what you've done is you've created both an escape and something that can be related to at the same time, because that ability to be larger than life, mind's a powerful thing. Like mind is really, really a powerful thing. And if you give people hope, they tend to latch onto it, no matter how the odds might seem at that point in time. That's an amazing thing. So he said you just finished the second and third issues, right?
We're working on the second and third. Like we got the second one is mostly funded now, and we are working on getting that one done, and then we'll be working on issue 2 of Pathway right after that.
So okay, just clear my confusion there a little bit, because he said second and third. So I'm assuming So Pathway's the name of the series, or is it like
we have 2. We have Pathway and we have Center Ice.
Okay.
Pathway is for cystic fibrosis. Center Ice is for pediatric brain cancer.
Okay. So that I'm not so confused anymore. That's good. So did you guys just decide to extend into like bigger, like after you did the first issue and it went, I imagine it worked like gangbusters for you guys, because otherwise you wouldn't be doing a second or a third one together. Right, but what made decision to start going into other causes? just because you felt you could make a bigger impact, or was it just one thing led to another?
Well, the hitting as many causes as possible was always the goal. Is assuming we did well with the first one. We always wanted to try to hit multiple causes, to make that many more kids happy.
Which is a noble goal.
Yeah. So when I originally published Only Human, it was an anti-bullying thing. And it was to make a difference, right? It wasn't just to sell a lot of books. And I quickly realized I wasn't going to get rich publishing comic books or anything like that, especially in the independent comics. But the idea was always to make a positive and a hopeful impact on people, whether it was in the comic book community or beyond. So the idea was always there to kind of make a societal impact, a positive change. And then when Pathway was well supported with the cystic fibrosis community and the comic book community, we knew we had an opportunity to kind of expand the universe. And that's kind of when Heroes for Causes kind of came about, was let's make a core team of Fantastic Four-like superhero characters that all revolved around these characters with these chronic illnesses. And let's not glorify them, but, let's make them superheroes and worthy of being their own superhero and having a character that a kid can relate to that, is sick and in a bed and dealing with a big disease and obstacles, and give him his own Superman.
It sounds like you guys so one of my favorite runs of the last 6-7 years was Jason Aaron's Thor, especially when it was her name just completely slipped my brain there. Jane Foster. When Jane Foster was Thor and she had cancer. Mm-hmm. And I actually thought it was from a very meta perspective, it was very Thor. I did feel like he kind of missed the opportunity to explore the vulnerabilities Jane had with battling her condition. And I thought there were some missed opportunities there. So I guess my question is, in you guys' case, obviously you want to make it somewhat larger in life because this is superheroes and you're fighting bad guys and all that stuff. But there's a humanity to it too, because even before they put the tights on, there's something very heroic about fighting an unbearable obstacle, and all your characters have that. Mm-hmm. So is there a deliberate attempt to balance that a little bit better, a little bit more, or is it more like the escape is the more important thing, I guess, for lack of a better?
Kind of the way we do it is, think old Captain Planet, where the bad guys were like the embodiment of the different pollutions. Mm-hmm. That's how our bad guys are. Like each one is the embodiment of a struggle that these patients deal with on a daily basis. So the educational part, when you're actually reading the story, is kind of subtle. But then at the end, we go in an editorial page and go, okay, here's the things we touched on, and here's why, and explain it a little bit deeper.
So you're very much, I'm going to say, the Dr. Seuss approach. Like the darkness is there. Yeah. Don't necessarily. It's not quite so in your face of bad and dark, because that's not what your comics are about. Your comics are about overcoming the odds in a very fun and hopefully fulfilling way.
Right, because we wanted it to appeal to both people who just wanted it because it's a fun story and they like the character, as well as the actual patients.
Yeah,
we wanted to appeal to both.
Yes. So, and obviously being I think probably it sounds like the patients are your biggest audience, or the audience you want possibly the most. Am I wrong on that assumption, or?
So the characters, the characters are meant to, obviously inspire and give the patients their own hero, but we wanted to create awareness for all these different diseases to the broader public. So our book kind of straddles, two things. There's a lot of educational books, like if you want to go learn about AIDS research, there's a lot of comic books that have been done that have just been educational. It's like, this is what AIDS is, this is how it impacts people, this is how many people it impacts. But as far as an entertaining, idea, it's kind of secondary. The educational aspect was more primary. So we wanted to go after something that was like very lighthearted, that you could be entertained by first. And then as you peel back the layers of the onion, you can be like, oh my gosh, there's the 6-foot rule, and that's why it's important to cystic fibrosis. And so, people, I think, shy away from books that beat you over the head, whatever it is. And so we're kind of turned off by that. But if you have something that's entertaining at first, and then you can kind of understand as you read through it a second time, oh my gosh, there's some educational aspect here.
I
Looks
want
like you
to
have a question.
No, I always have questions. So it's what I do.
That's the way.
Yeah, no, it sounds to me like from just a storytelling perspective, one of the things you guys are juggling with is the nuance of it, what you show, what you tell. Because again, you have a very clear goal of what you want to do, but obviously, I mean, you also don't want to insult the intelligence of whoever's reading the book either. There's a very I feel like that's really probably the biggest challenge to writing it, because intelligence is hard, because if you don't want to avoid the issues, but you don't want, like, I think most of us are tired of the grim and gritty, Dark Knight-esque. Like, you don't want, especially in a comic like this, that's not what you want.
No.
So it definitely feels like and just be interesting if you get Donovan's perspective on this too, is what you show and what you tell. Like, how much, I imagine, Joe, that this, because you're the one doing the writing stuff, that must be a really interesting challenge for you.
It's unlike any other project that I've done before.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've done like the educational one, like on the AIDS project. I was a letter on one of those projects for like the Cleveland Health something. And it was very cut and dried. This is the background and the history of AIDS research and why it's impactful and why we need to overcome it, which is great. And then there are always those attempts like at driver's ed, like, this is John, and John does this, and and so I was like, yeah, we don't want to do that, So no. I embraced 80s and 90s Amazing Spider-Man, and we all agreed that would be a good approach, because it was really lighthearted and fun, and you could pick up a book and not be like depressed by the time you ended up reading it. And ultimately, what Jeremiah and I and Donovan all discussed, we don't want to leave that impression on the reader, especially the patient. We want to give them hope, like you said, and we want to give them a hero to look up to. So while they're dealing with these issues and the villains are the embodiment of the things that they're tackling on a daily basis, we want our hero to be an overcomer. So they have superpowers. They also have an Achilles heel. But, at the end of the day, they're still struggling with whatever it is, whether it's brain cancer or whether it's cystic fibrosis. And that's like, the core of their Iron Man suit that might run out of energy, or if Tony Stark gets it ripped out of his armor, he's just a normal guy or a weakened guy. So we wanted to weave that in, and then also at the end of the story, we want to leave it on an uplifting note, so that you might have this thing that you're battling every single day, and you can still overcome it, because these patients, in the true sense of the word, are superheroes. They're real life superheroes. They're dealing with these diseases every day. It's amazing. And for people that aren't going through it, we have no idea what these people are suffering through on a daily basis. Jeremiah can just give you a little tip of the iceberg as far as like his regimen and all the pills he's taking and everything. So it's inspiring for me to see Jeremiah, for instance, go through all this struggle, and then he still has time to, try to push this forward with this project and impact other patients that are dealing with this, and reach out to all these different institutions and try to get funding. So he is a superhero in my book. And I think that if we brought that to the general public to realize, cystic fibrosis patient dealing with this is Superman in real life, I think that maybe they can relate to it and then embrace cystic fibrosis as a superhero, and pediatric brain cancer as a superhero, and sickle cell as a superhero. So that's the ultimate goal.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask. I think I got an interesting question for Jeremiah. But and then afterwards, I'm gonna ask Joseph maybe a pick and choose between children here in a bit. But so I would never. I think one of the hardest things about dealing, and I think you could probably attest to this probably better, is the idea that your body, you're not in control of what's happening with your body. And that is such a humbling thing to deal with. For whatever reason, things just aren't working the way everybody, or for the majority of people out there.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess I'm going to ask this, because this is a hard one. And if you don't want to answer, by the way, feel free not to. How did you make peace with that? Because that's a very hard thing. That's a very hard thing for anybody to deal with, and it's a humbling thing to boot. So if you have an answer to that, cool. If you don't, I'll back. Yeah.
I don't mind. Honestly, the way I overcame it is when I was younger, like they can't do it anymore because of new rules and stuff they've learned. But when I was younger, we used to go to summer camps with other CF patients, and just seeing that there were other people with the same thing I have that were even sicker kind of made me think, okay, well, mine's not that bad, and helped me kind of come to terms with that.
Okay.
It's just seeing people who are worse off than myself, but with the same thing.
Yeah. No, I
even my younger brother has it, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you see it. And yeah, and honestly, for us, for guys like us, you kind of kill all our excuses because you just like, I'm doing stuff. Why are you doing stuff? And it's like, yeah, why aren't I doing stuff? And that's you pretty much, I mean, that's actually the amazing thing. Like you're living proof that people can, in spite of whatever obstacles they have, still do anything. And that's a very impressive thing.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I this is what I do, but other patients do things that are even way more impressive. Like another girl with CF in Orlando won So You Think You Can Dance last year. And that's another girl with lung problems.
Yeah.
So I mean,
everybody's got. I think one of the cool things about a comic like this, it does show that no matter who you are, everybody has battles, but some have battled bigger monsters than any of us ever truly realize. So I'm gonna put Joe on a spot here. Okay, you've written 2 of these characters so far. Who's your favorite?
Obviously, I'm biased. Jeremiah is my favorite character. But no, Pathway was kind of the original, the one that kicked it off. If without Pathway, we wouldn't be where we're at, and we wouldn't be making the impact that we're doing. So I think as we grow and as we get to meet like Weston with center ice and maybe Roderick with a degenerative heart disease, they're all like kids to you, because now it's not just a character that you created that you want to breathe life in a book. It's someone that you have a personal connection to that you want to see succeed. I want the Heroes for Causes project to succeed, 1, because of Jeremiah, and 2, because of all the impact that I've seen that we've made. Jeremiah gets video calls with cystic fibrosis patients, and to see the smile that he puts on their faces dressed in Pathway outfit, they're like, oh my gosh, this is a superhero. And now I'm talking to the superhero on video chat. It's when you give a child a cape, just for that brief moment, they forget about their disease. They forget about all the things that's going on in their lives. And it's those moments that we want to amplify and multiply by 1 million or 1 billion, whatever we can do, because I think that's the true impact that we're trying to make.
Wow. Yeah. So you must have a zillion stories, Jeremiah, about the people you've touched doing this. I honestly, I don't know if you want to share 1 or 2, that'd be cool.
Yeah, probably the coolest one would be Scarlett. She just turned 6, and her mom actually ordered a copy of Pathway and 2 T-shirts for Christmas past year.
Okay.
And after Scarlett opened it, we actually did a video call with her, like in the full Pathway cosplay. And this little girl was sitting here at 5, 6 years old, crying, telling me how much she loved the book and that I was her new best friend. And it took everything I could not to cry.
I'm trying not to cry right now.
Insane.
It's so Claire to Jeremiah was a big inspiration, and I think what we're trying to do, Claire's no longer with us, but she made a huge impact for just creating awareness in the greater population for cystic fibrosis. And cystic fibrosis is a thing that if you're not aware of, you don't really have a lot of sympathy for, I guess, because you don't even know what's out there until you kind of are approached with someone that that has been affected by cystic fibrosis. Then it becomes real for you. So I think Claire brought that to a great amount of the general public. And I think in part, Jeremiah wants to, and I want to kind of continue her legacy, and kind of, now Pathway is that torch that's going forward, that's kind of bringing light to cystic fibrosis patients for hope, and then also bringing awareness to the greater public. So if Jeremiah can kind of take on that mantle as Pathway, and to bring smiles to cystic fibrosis patients, and then also show them there's someone out there winning Dancing with the Stars, or making the impact that Claire had, that's essentially what we want to do, so that while they're suffering with their treatments and their pills and their regimens and stuff like that, they're like, wow, there's a true life superhero that lives in Tampa, Florida, that's dealing with this, that's overcoming it. He still has time to do this, this, and this, and this, and to be a superhero in real life. So that's the hope. And I think that even if we can improve the quality of life of a couple patients, I think we did our job. If they're like, wow, I'm going through all this stuff, it sucks. It's a lot of time, it's draining all my energy, but someone is out there, they're winning Dancing with the Stars, they're making an impact on the entire world, they're being a real life superhero. That gives them a little more energy at the end of the day to overcome, even if it's mentally, physically, whatever, to overcome their struggles.
It makes it more bearable, because again, anything is possible. It doesn't matter where you're at. Like I said earlier, you guys basically killed any excuses that guys like me would have. Like, I want to do something. I got no excuse, because if you guys can do it, anybody can do it, right? And
it's like Wanted. The last quote of the movie Wanted with Angelina Jolie. The one guy character, he says, "What the F have you done lately?" That's what I think when I approach and I see Jerimiah making these positive changes with all the obstacles and hurdles that he's facing. I think, well, what the F have I done lately? What bigger societal impact? And if Donovan was on the call with us right now, he would chime in, because that's the one thing that he keeps echoing is, he wants this to be like the positive movement or the positive change that we push out there to, we all work for maybe a day job or provide for our family or keep the lights on and food and stuff, but let's push ourselves a little bit more. What else can we do to help improve the lives of other people out there? And for us, it's Heroes for Causes.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So, so obviously the plan is to be as big as possible. So I guess so let's assume it's perfect world, just for the sake of just this discussion here. Like, what would be ideal for you guys in terms of like how many books come out in a year, like the stories you want to tell? Is there like a map to this, or are we still kind of in like, you were talking about like trying to see how far in terms of story arc, we're just taking it one at a time. But you guys are getting bigger, so obviously you have a clear vision of what you want to accomplish, but how big would you like to get doing it, I guess, is the question. And so we're just going to assume perfect world for the sake of this.
I can answer that in one word, and then I can let Jerimiah expand on it. Kimmel.
Okay, I'm curious.
He keeps making this joke that his perfect world will be getting up big enough where Jimmy Kimmel has us on the show. But for me, perfect, like everything goes right, we get where we want to go. I would say we'd be big enough to have 10, 15 heroes at least.
Okay.
And doing like 2 to 3 books for each one every year. Wow. But that's absolute perfect world. Everything goes right. We have money. Long time from now.
You never know. Honestly, the one thing I will say about life's really funny in that sometimes you ask for something and then literally sometimes it seems like the next day you get an answer, and it's maybe not the answer you expect. Maybe you don't get on Kimmel. Maybe you get on Oprah. Maybe, life is one of those like really weird things, and I've like my own personal experiences in life. Okay, so I'm like, this is expanding into a broadcast. I have no idea where this is going to go. I know what I'd like to do in a perfect world, and I've given myself a certain amount of time to see what can happen, right? Mm-hmm. I remember when I was originally doing the podcast, like, is anyone paying attention to this damn thing? And I was like episode 120. So I'm going to give it to 150. I'm going to quit. And literally when I did that, the next day I get myself like a nomination for an award, and I won that award that year, a Canadian award. It's like, well, someone's paying attention after all, right? And it's not something I expected. I find that any endeavor, you never go exactly where you imagine you go, but sometimes that's not a bad thing. Sometimes it actually means it's actually going to be something better. So,
what was it Donovan said yesterday? That he hopes we go to where I run out of skin.
Yeah. You're gonna have to explain yourself.
Well, I've made it kind of a tradition so far, where every time we get a new hero that the first book is being done, like actually funded and stuff, I get them tattooed to me. Mm-hmm. So Donovan was like, "Well, hopefully we go to you run out of skin."
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes that and then at that point you're like, okay, I'm out. So Joe, if you get to the point where he's at a skin to tattoo, will you join him and get a tattoo yourself?
At that point, I think we'd probably be on Oprah or something like that.
Well, see, that'd be a cool show segment. It's like, you know what, we got this far, bam, you know. But
let's see. I can show you. I got two. So I got Pathway and Center Ice so far.
All right. So we'll get a quick look here.
There's Pathway.
Move yourself a little.
Camera aimed right.
A little over to the other, little direction other way.
These cameras are stupid.
Almost.
A little more to the side.
There we go. What the fuck? Way. I hate cameras. There we go.
There you go.
There you go.
I get the side of it.
I hate these cameras. Let's see. Here's this way a little bit easier. Center Ice. There you go.
That's really cool. So now, Jeremiah, obviously, you have a say in a lot what these characters look like and kind of have a sense of where you go. So, in terms of the collaborative process, I wish Donovan was here because I'm sure he'd have his own 2 cents about this. But in terms of the collaborative process, so when you guys come up with these different heroes and different causes, do you guys just all kind of like brainstorm, like, okay, what cause do we want to kind of make aware next? And then you think about the story you want to tell. Is that kind of how that works, or is it like, you know, I also just know this from my own stuff. You stumble onto things just asking for them. I mean, that's how I got this interview.
We had an idea of several causes we wanted to do.
Yeah.
But basically the way it worked after Pathway is we just sent out emails to every foundation for every cause that we could think of. And it happened to be the American Cancer Society who responded first.
Okay.
So and then they had a patient lined up, which was Weston, and we based it off of him.
Okay. So and that's going to be like your approach with every other like character. Like you're going to find a cause, whoever answers the bell. So and then
since we give all the proceeds to charity, we want to have a charity ready to go to receive those funds.
No. That makes total sense. That makes total sense. I'm just like, okay. So I'm going to ask another fun question then, because obviously you've been building these individual heroes. Mm-hmm. So you're going to do a team? Like you're going to have like an Avengers-esque kind of thing?
We have the Heroes for Causes title, and the 4 was kind of reminiscent of the 4 in Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to have our core 4 as our Fantastic Four, our core team, and then to expand that as we grow. So we want the 4, probably the 4 first characters. I guess we'll kind of play it by ear, but have those as our core team, as our Avengers, our Fantastic Four, and then to grow from there as we bring on more causes and more individuals.
Okay. So obviously you mentioned the Amazing Spider-Man. Your one of your big influences on this. So Captain Planet was another one. So is there anything else that you guys kind of want to incorporate, like to create that feeling or the vibe you're going for?
From an artistic standpoint, I don't know, McFarlane's a big influence on us. Obviously, we've done a homage to Amazing Spider-Man 298 with Pathway. And then the lightheartedness of kind of, you know, the late 80s Amazing Spider-Man when McFarlane kind of took over for that run. And kind of our art style, we've been pushing towards a little of the early Spawn to kind of give it that, like, you know, retro flavor a little bit. You know, back when comics weren't so deep and dark and they were lighthearted and stuff like that. And yeah, a little bit of that retro vibe in the style of the pencils. I think Donovan embodies that really well. Kieran with the inks. And so it was cool because we were going towards that early Spawn vibe and that, you know, late 80s Amazing Spider-Man vibe. And when other people are picking up the books and they're like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Spawn from the 90s, we're like, yes, perfect. That's what we were going for.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
I mean, it didn't hurt that we got props from McFarlane on our cover either. But
it's humbling. I mean, I imagine for him, that's a humbling thing. Like I'm a big Ninja Turtle guy. I love the Kevin Eastman Ninja Turtle run. I mean, if I ever do a homage to somebody, it's probably going to be him. And it's always humbling to actually get that experience, right? I mean, maybe one day, Jeremiah, you might see it. I mean, you might see people cosplaying as yourself. I mean, that's going to be a surreal moment.
That'd be amazing, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Well, you'd be surprised. Like I'm going to say this, man. I mean, honestly, if you're giving as much hope as Joseph's saying, the kids you're touching now are going to remember what you did for them. We all do. We all remember the people that were there for us when we needed, we were our most vulnerable. Yeah. You're showing up and you're making, and just something you may see down the road. It might be a surreal thing. Everything you're doing now, no matter where it leads you, is going to have an impact. And when it does, it sometimes it's incredibly humbling. And I'm speaking from like my own experiences there. I mean, what you're doing is very big. I think like Joe's not kidding. It's superheroic. I mean, you're going in like you're someone that's there that a lot of these kids can relate to yourself because of all the battles you fought. The fact that you're still here, that is huge in itself. But the fact that you're going out of your way to say, hey, listen, life can go on. That's an amazing message. And the kids that go through, that make it through this part of the journey are going to remember people like you far into the long run. And I mean, I'm just saying, like, stuff like this makes an impact. And I mean, expect the worst is not a bad philosophy, but it's okay to say, hey, you did good. You did really good. I'm just saying, man. You never know. Like, you truly don't. Everything you do leads somewhere, and that's if there's one thing I can say, then what you've done is really, really impressive, man. Honestly. So
appreciate that.
Yeah. So, So you guys just finished this project what was it? A Kickstarter? Was it like a crowdfunding thing, or was it actual?
We did. Well, with Pathway, we did do a Kickstarter for part of it, and then we also got Colton Underwood's Legacy Foundation helped pay for part of it.
Okay, very cool.
Which, if you don't know him, he played in the NFL for like 3 different teams. He was on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. But his little niece, Harper, has CF. Yeah, that guy right there.
So it's something that hit home with him too, and he appreciates. Like I said, you make an impact, and you never realize who you make an impact with, right? So, that's really cool. That's really cool. So is crowdfunding the way you guys are going to be releasing these books, like via Kickstarter or whatever the case may be, or is that you got plans there to go somewhat different as well?
We try to get our charity partners to fund what they can. Yeah. And then we will help crowdfund the rest.
Okay.
But it's because we don't want them to spend too much, but at the same time, we went into debt on the first book, to be quite honest. And we can't afford to do that for everyone if we're giving all the money to charity. No, that you have to have somewhat of a sustainable model that you guys want to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is going to sound probably the most cynical going to sound the whole thing. There is a business aspect. Things do cost, and you have to make those costs fit one way or the other, which is so here's a big question for both of you then. What have you learned doing this? Oh, a lot. We've learned quite a bit, like everything from different ways to approach these foundations. The fact that a lot of them don't even have extra funds for advertising or anything like this. I mean, that's mostly what I've learned is stuff like that. And then all the comic book stuff that Joseph's been teaching me.
What I didn't know before is, Joshua, I don't know your experience with publishing your own books and indie comics and stuff, but you print a book, you make a book, you spend all this time on production and maybe even money on production, depending on if you're the artist, writer, inker, colorist, whatever. Then you go to sell your book, and you got to do all the marketing, and you got to appear at booth displays. You got to set up your booth display. You got to have an active social media presence. When we approached this, obviously because 100% of the profits are going to charity, we said, let's make it a free book, and then let's have them donate whatever they feel they can afford to the charity if they're so inspired. If they can't make a donation at that time, no problem. We don't push them. We still want them to read the book. And what we found is we started getting over and above what we would have ever sold the book for from the people that are actually making the donations to the charity. So we were really inspired because I think we averaged like $15 to $22 donated per donation, which after we handed out all the books, it might have been more like $3-4. But the people that were able to donate and were making that donation, they were very generous with their donations. A, because they knew it was a good cause, and B, I guess they saw the quality in the product that we put out there.
So Radiohead.
I think the biggest single donation we got was just recently for $2,500. Is that what I think the email said?
For the pediatric brain cancer one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Wow.
It was from a franchisee from McDonald's. Now that goes to the American Cancer Society, and then they are going to help offset the printing costs and stuff like that of Center Ice.
No, which is amazing. No, I was about to say Radiohead did an experiment like this way back, and I want to say early 2000s. That when albums still, there's definitely a lot more. Albums are a lot more. Art in general has become a lot more freewheeling and like Wild West again, and both in best. And there's some great things about it, and there's some not so great things about it. But here was the interesting thing. So Radiohead gave an album away for free, and he said the same thing like you did, like a donation thing. So the challenge then in that format is there's always going to be people that take it for free. That's just the way it is. That's life. Some people will give you $1, some people will give you $5, and that's probably an average. But what tends to happen is when people really appreciate what you do, they tend to go above and beyond what everybody else. So what tends to happen is, I think, and this is every literature in general. Let's say you had. How many copies did you have? Like, say 1,000, 10,000,
5,000.
So 5,000 copies. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that 500 of those books you gave away completely for free. That's probably about right. Probably another 1,000, 2,000 of them you got at cost, $3, $4, $5 a book. Then once you get by the 220, like half that, that's probably half. And then the other half was. It went above and beyond. Certainly, so maybe it was $10 instead of $5, which is still big, but like not numbers to blow you out. And then out of that percentage, let's say maybe we'll go the other way. 50 people in that list went above and beyond anything you could have imagined, and that's probably what it was. Like something like that, 50, then like 2,000, which was maybe slightly above and beyond, 1,000, 1,500, like 2,000 odd price, which hey, at least you got your money back for the book, and then there's 500 that didn't give you a dime, right? So what happens is, I think with all of us is what tends to happen is that 50 is what we call a super fan, right? Not just a fan, but a super fan, and they are the ones that are going to go above and beyond, but they're also the ones that are going to tell everybody they know about your book. So what happens is as you keep doing more books, let's say the next book is 10,000 copies, right? 100, maybe 150 of them are going to be super fans. And then you're going to have bigger numbers and everything. You're going to have probably 1,000 free books. There's probably about 4,000 that pay our cost, another 4,000 that go what they can, which is totally, and the thing about that's really interesting too is you're not dealing with any middlemen. So essentially, and that's the advantage to this method is you've cut everything else with just basically you guys and the book, which is it's not a terrible way of doing it. It is a bit random, and you have to make sure that people know you're out there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can do that, and you have a concise way of doing it, you'll see results. And I'm not even just for charity, but I think even just for any product, the challenge is getting the reach to really benefit the reap and rewards of that. Like I said, Radiohead made more doing their album and so I'm imagining, like you just said, you made more doing a comic than what you did going through a more maybe traditional means of doing it. So, which goes to show you that maybe that people, like I said, people will support you if they think your work is worth it. So.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. It's a good time.
Yeah, we got smashed because of COVID this year, where our plan was to do a medium-sized convention every quarter, and then for every convention take about 1,000 books, and distribute all 1,000 books at every convention that we did. We did one small convention when we were able to do it, and we did well for being a couple hundred people or whatever that came to that show, but we didn't get out to the C2E2 or the Heroes Con or the Mega Con or anything like that, because obviously COVID. But so we've had to focus a lot on social media and the website and that kind of digital universe rather than the traditional con space.
Yeah.
I'll ask this: how much do you think the success of the charity drive, also because of your guys' genuine love of what you're doing? Because I think
From
that's what well, just because it's something you both genuinely believe in. I have a theory, and this is my theory, in that whatever when you do art or when you tell a story of any kind, I think people get a sense that the people that really believe in it, right? If they sense that you believe in it, I think people tend to invest in you more subconsciously. Right. I think it's something that translates on the page, no matter what kind of art it is. If you sense a sense of belief in it, it works. It will go farther than someone that doesn't believe or is like, I'm here, but I'm kind of like, I'm going through the motions. And you can tell when someone's doing that. So I'm wondering if you guys think that had anything to do with also how it propelled the way it did.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that, Joshua, what you said is, just that reach. I guess we're still in the infant stages of kind of getting awareness out there. And because we haven't been able to do a medium size or big con per se, we really didn't have that splash yet. All the people we've been getting out to is through podcasts and maybe virtual events and stuff like that, but not quite in the numbers we'd like to. And I think if we kind of get that super fan base going, we have one or two, but I think if we can get 10 or 20, that'll kind of give us enough encouragement to really hit it full go. Although I kind of feel like we're at full go right now. But anytime you're an artist or a writer or whatever, you put your work out there and you want to know that it's being well received and that people are appreciating your efforts and stuff like that. And then once you start getting those people jumping on board, it just stokes your fire more. So that, we were already passionate about doing a world of change. But until we knew that people were really embracing what we were doing and really being impacted by it, is when we started, adding fuel to the fire and really getting going. So Jeremiah and I's goal, if we could do this full time, not even do the jobs, just do this full time, that would be amazing for us. Just, so that we can keep the lights on and stuff like that, but then also still continue the mission so we can put 110% of our effort into it. So I do digital marketing and I help people build websites and stuff like that. So if I could move my attention from doing that for the full time and then doing this as a hobby or the spare time to doing this as the full time, I think that, the traction would really start there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Time versus money, man. It's always the struggle of every artist. Like you have to put in the time, but sometimes you sacrifice money and you can make money, but often when you're making money, you don't have the time. It's a very, very tricky balancing act.
Yeah.
I have all the time in the world. I'm on disability, so.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, it sounds like you guys are on the right track, if nothing else, for sure, right now. And I get the feeling cons on some level or not are going to probably be back in the second half of the year. I'm not sure to what capacity exactly, but I'm getting the feeling that by the time we get to summer, that this, as we know it, is going to change. To what, I don't know, but I mean, it's going to, and I think that opportunity will present itself to you guys. So are you guys
as of right now, we will be at a con in Orlando in March. Yeah. And then there's one in October that we haven't said yes yet because it's in Illinois and none of us live there. So we're not sure on that one yet, but we will be at MyCon in Orlando in March.
So, I mean, things are starting to move again on some level or another anyway. So those opportunities will start to come back. And I think, just keeping, honestly, you guys have a great cause, honestly, and it's definitely worth doing. So when's your next, so you just finished the campaign. So are you guys doing another one anytime soon, or are you like in springtime kind of deal? Like, what's the next plan, the next step for you guys?
So we're waiting on final funding for Center Ice. So essentially what we do is, Jeremiah and I and Donovan, we're all volunteers. We all contribute whatever time we can to do the amount of work that we can. And then whatever we can get people to volunteer for, like the inks, the colors, the lettering, and then maybe the design, that's like the subsidized costs. We have to cover that and the printing. So outside of that, everything is on us essentially. So once that funding comes in, it just covers those bare bases to pay the people that need to get paid that aren't the volunteers and to pay for the printing costs. We absorb everything over that. So I think 2,500 Jeremiah said. So to print 5,000 books, it's around 2,200, and then to pay the colorist, the inker, the letterer, and the designer on 18 pages of art is around 1,500 to 2,000 ish, around there. So $4,500 I think is the bare bones that we need to hit. So I think we're only $2,000 away from that. So to bridge that gap, yeah, we might go Kickstarter if we need to. Or the American Cancer Society might say, hey, we got another personal donation to cover the rest of the balance. Here's the green light, go ahead. Same thing with Pathway One. What we did was Jeremiah reached out to a lot of companies or organizations that were involved in the cystic fibrosis space. So he was able to raise, several $100s through them. And then we were able to get the Kickstarter going. And then Cohen's Legacy helped fund the print costs. So with all those costs, we were, almost break even. We're still a little bit in debt from Pathway. So the more causes, I guess we can kind of get that core funding for, the quicker we can kind of get them out.
And also the more books you make too. People are going to be more aware of you guys as your identity keeps going and expanding. So, all right. I think I got one more question in me, and then I think we can get to the wonderful plugging of stuff, as the saying goes. So, I think I'm going to ask this for Joe, and I'm going to ask this I'm going to ask Jeremiah. Actually, two separate questions. So, Jeremiah, this has been definitely probably a wild dream for you, because it's something like, again, off a whim, and you've just been riding this very, very interesting little ride. So we talked a little bit before you got here about you wanting to write a comic, but so would you, based on your experiences here, would you love to try to tackle something not related to your to the cause, like actually keep doing more creative things, or are you set just growing this? Like, would you be satisfied with just growing this? I'm just curious.
If I were to try my hand at writing a comic, it would be to grow this.
Yeah.
I do write, but from what I've already noticed from Joseph is writing comics is way different than the kind of writing I do. I write poetry and D&D campaigns.
Either of those, man.
Yeah, but comics are way different.
No, they are. They're very much about most of what he writes does not see the other side. Most of what he writes, and he's collaborating with his team at that point. So, just you've done some cool books on your own already. And this is the question I have for you. Is this the thing you want to be known for more than anything else? This kind of cause, because it's very unique even in the comic realm. A lot of comic creators, myself included, are looking at creating our own properties and doing this. But you are going. This is a very noble way to use your gifts. To be perfectly frank, and one a lot of creators don't think about especially on the rise and getting their name out there and all that stuff. So is this what you like? If you were not for everything else you've done, is this the thing you're proudest doing?
I think so. Don and I have had a few conversations, and he's like, what's his term he uses? Not to be corny, or Jeremiah, what's he normally say? Not to be.
He says not to sound corny.
Not to sound corny, but if this can be our legacy, so to speak, if we can make this impact and to do something that's bigger than ourselves, he would be perfectly happy with it. And I think that kind of echoes my own thoughts. Is that in 20 or 30 years, do we want to be on maybe a talk show talking about we created the next Spider-Man, or do we want to be on a talk show talking about how we impacted millions and millions of lives by giving them their own superhero to look up to? I think that, Josh, you mentioned being like a noble cause and doing something beyond yourself. Personally, I can't think of something that would have, more of a social impact, kind of like from a noble perspective than that. If in 20 years, this thing is big and we've saved lives, and then all of a sudden, like you said, Scarlett grows up and she's cosplaying as Pathway, and then, these other kids that are kids now are cosplaying as Center Ice. I think that would be, the ultimately touching the payoff for us is, obviously we're doing it for free. We're doing it of our own time. We're putting our own money into making this happen and to help raise funds for these charities. So for us, it's obviously bigger than money because we're not in it for the money. We're in it for the social impact and the change and the hope that we're bringing to people. So I think, I can't think of a better cause right now that would leave a legacy or a lasting impact on other people than to see this thing really take off and maybe be the next Fantastic Four, but be it in all the right ways for the right people, so that as we kind of move into this society of inclusivity and acceptance, and sympathy and compassion for people of all creeds and races and stuff like that, if we're bringing these chronic illnesses to the forefront, and now everybody is compassionate towards people with cystic fibrosis, to people with autism, to people with battling degenerative heart diseases, and there's just a little bit more respect and compassion and sympathy for what these people are going through on a daily basis, I think that we arrived. I think that we did our job, and maybe that's what we were put here to do. I don't know.
That's a fair point. Well, hey, C.S. Lewis said best, one of the hardest things to do is be charitable, but it can be very rewarding when you do it. And I mean, you guys are living proof of that. All right. I think we have an interview here. What do you guys think, gentlemen?
I think so.
I think so? Okay. So why don't we, this is the part where you guys get to shamelessly promote all your wonderful stuff. So why how about this? Joseph, you talked about the books, where you can get them. Jeremiah, you talked about the whole cause, start to finish, and where people can find you.
So we built a website, Heroes for Causes, and we have, I think, all of the books and then also some extra merch. Center Ice isn't up there yet because we haven't officially set a release date for it. But the regular Pathway books people can get on there. And then we also have the variant covers. There's like a hollow foil cover that we did. I think there's 57 of those left. We only did 100 of those. And then we did a purple foil cover. So those are on the website. And then we also have the causes lined up. So if they want to back Pathway, they can just make a blind donation for $5, $10, $20, whatever. And that'll help us fund the next issue of Pathway. If they believe and want to support Center Ice, or they're touched in any way by pediatric brain cancer, they can go directly to the Center Ice Project and they can make a $5, $10, $20 donation, whatever they want. And that helps us fund those bare bones costs for getting the next book out there. So yeah, we try to organize it all in one spot because we do have social media presence for Pathway and for Heroes for Causes. And then trying to lead everyone back just to the website, which is heroesforcauses.com. That's FOR.
All right. And Jeremiah. So
yeah, I mean, he pretty much said most of it.
He said most of it, but you're still part of this, brother. So you got
exactly
where you're at.
Yeah,
Also, if you got any pictures of you in cosplay, you got to tell people where to find that stuff, man.
There is a couple of me actually, both on our social media and on the website, I believe, under the gallery. There's a picture of me in full costume. This is one of the shirts we sell on there. Is this one right here that I'm wearing? I love it. It's actually really comfortable. But we also sell like blankets and face masks and all kinds of stuff. Everything to try to raise money for these causes. So
say again. Do you have like a social media presence yourself, just specifically?
Myself specifically, I do. Just my Facebook is just Jerimiah Stemple. But then I also operate the ones on Instagram and Twitter that are at Pathway CF Superhero.
Okay, Pathway CF Superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And so, guys, Heroes for Causes, definitely check them out. I think we have a pretty good interview here. If you want to support this show, click the follow button on Twitch, twitch.tv/JustJoshing Podcast. My YouTube channel is Joshua Pandoresco. I want to thank Jerimiah Stemple, Joseph A. Michael for coming here and letting me make an ass of myself in front of these two gentlemen for an hour or so. Stay inspired, keep shining in the dark, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Later.